Welcome back, wanderers of the unexplained. I'm Joseph Rollins, and this is Dark Simulation, the show that hunts for the glitch behind the curtain and asks, what if the monsters in the code are real? Tonight, we step onto a postcard perfect trail tucked high in Panama's mist-draped mountains. Two Dutch backpackers wave to a friendly café dog, cross a living archway of green, and vanish so completely that even time seems embarrassed to admit they were here. For 77 silent phone calls, one lonely backpack, and a series of midnight flash photos, the cloud forest itself becomes both witness and suspect. Grab your flashlight, tighten that pack strap, and remember, in the simulation, the terrain can rewrite itself the moment you look away. This is the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, and the debt the jungle still keeps on its ledger. Let's walk in. Story title, Lost in the Cloud Forest - A Perfect Trail, a perfect trip. The El Pianista Trail begins the way a fairy tale should end. 1 minute you're sipping rich boquete coffee in a sunlit valley, the next, you step under a living green archway and the world exhales cool mist across your skin. For 21-year-old Kris Kremers and 22-year-old Lisanne Froon, the path looked like a postcard come alive. They had spent months saving tips at a Dutch cafe just so they could volunteer with local children, learn Spanish, and grab one glorious hike before classes began. It was April 1, 2014, and despite the date's prankster reputation, the morning felt charmed. At 11 a.m., the pair signed the guestbook at El Pianista restaurant, waved to the owner's little dog Blue, and headed uphill. Kris carried a tiny Canon camera, Lisanne slung a blue backpack with water, a map, and her red Samsung phone, the lifeline every traveler trusts but never expects to need. Into the cloud halfway up the ridge, the forest shifted. Sunlight vanished behind vapor, trunks stood farther apart than physics seemed to allow, and the bird song felt muffled, like someone had draped a blanket over the sky. They should have turned back. Everyone in Boquete knows El Pianista is out and back, not a loop. But adventure is a sweet narcotic, and the mist kept promising panoramic views just 5 more minutes ahead. No one knows exactly when things went wrong. What we do know comes from Lisanne's phone log. At 1:39 p.m. she dialed Panama's emergency number, no signal. Minutes later she tried 112, the Dutch emergency line, again, nothing. A search with no footprints when Blue the dog trotted home alone that night. The restaurant owners first assumed the students had chosen a longer route. By sunrise, that comfort collapsed. Search parties combed the trail, helicopters drummed overhead, and trained dogs sliced the undergrowth like scalpels. But the forest, a million shades of green, swallowed everything. 10 agonizing days later, the official search ended. The backpack that floated upstream 75 days after Kris and Lisanne vanished, and gay woman fishing along the Coluba River noticed a blue backpack drifting against the current, as if the water itself had rejected it. Inside lay both girls' phones, $83 in cash, a passport, 2 bras neatly folded, and Kris's camera still pristine. The Samsung told its own horror story, 77 failed emergency calls, spread across a week, each one shorter, more frantic, like a heart monitor growing quiet. Then came the photos. Flashbulbs in the dark. Kris's Canon revealed cheerful selfies on the summit, wide smiles, arms skyward, fog curling at their ankles. But tucked after image 508, the tone shattered. Picture 509, pure black. 510, a close-up of wet branches, no faces. 515, the crown of someone's head, hair clotted with mud. 518, a dangling plastic bag tied to a stick, gleaming in flash like a SOS lantern. Between 1 o'clock and 4 a.m. on April 8th, the camera fired 90 photos, as if 2 terrified people kept hitting the shutter to stave off the dark. Bones that told conflicting tales after the backpack, searchers pushed deeper. They found Kris's denim shorts lying on a boulder near the riverbank, unzipped, not folded, disproving years of internet rumor. Weeks later, a boot with bones still inside surfaced downstream, a pelvis appeared yards away. In total, 33 bones emerged over miles. Forensic techs said Lisanne's fragments looked normal, still wrapped in leathery skin, but Kris's bones were sun-bleached, porous, almost cooked. Scientists argued, sun exposure or chemical wash. The jungle held its tongue. 3 theories, no answers. 1. The cliff fall. Officials insist the women strayed beyond the continental divide, slipped in rain, and one broke her ankle. The other refused to leave her friend, so they both perished of exposure. Simple, tragic, done. 2. The wrong guide. Locals whisper about a tour operator who offered secret waterfalls north of the trail, the same man whose name appears in police notes but never in court. Some believe he led the women astray and never planned to guide them back. 3. A human predator. Online sleuths point to a spate of murders along Panama's western trails. They cite the neatly packed backpack, the cut phone line, and the surgically stripped bones as evidence that someone clever, human or otherwise, stalked Kris and Lisanne in that clouded maze. Truth sits somewhere in the fog, unreachable as the summit view they sought. The twist you'll never shake. Here's the part that keeps veteran rescuers awake. One investigator mapped every emergency call ping from Lisanne's phone. The grid showed a slow southward drift, until April 7th, when the signal jumped 13 miles east, across a 4,000-foot ravine no hiker could cross in a night, let alone in the dark with an injured companion. Either the phone moved far faster than the human who held it, or something carried it. Today, a decade later, hikers still pause on that moss-slick ridge where Kris and Lisanne took their final selfie. The mist closes in fast there, like a curtain. Some say if you stand very still, you'll hear 2 voices arguing softly in Dutch, caught between persistence and panic, forever looping through the clouds. And somewhere, deep below, a backpack rests against a rock, waiting for the river to spit it out again. If you can still hear my voice, you found your way back, something Kris and Lisanne never did. The cloud forest keeps its secrets, but every so often it spits out a clue, daring someone new to decode the pattern. What do you think moved that phone across a 4,000-foot ravine? Drop your theory in the comments, or send a voice memo to darksimulationpodcast@protonmail.com, we might feature it in a future debrief. Next week, we head north to the Alaskan tundra, where an entire fishing village blinks off the map without leaving footprints in the snow. Trust me, you'll want a thicker coat for that one. If tonight's dive rattled your compass, hit subscribe, ring the bell emoji, and share this episode with someone who loves a good chill down the spine. Until the next anomaly, keep your sensors up. Because reality has cracks, and something is always trying to slip through. I'm Joseph Rollins, and this is Dark Simulation, the show that hunts for the glitch behind the curtain and asks, what if the monsters in the Matrix are real?